Good afternoon, everyone in the Eastern Time Zone, and good morning to those of you in the Central Time Zone. Welcome to this month's edition of the Wild Wednesday webinars, brought to you by MIPA and all of the regional associations within District 3, plus the Promotional Products Association of the Midwest. These webinars are brought to you by Apothecary Products, a distributor of promotional products based out of Minnesota and with manufacturing here in Michigan, and we appreciate their sponsorship. This presentation has been approved for CAS credits. At the end, you'll be directed to a survey form. If you fill that out with your educational PIN number, I will submit that to PPAI to make sure that you get CAS credits for today's presentation. Today's presentation is from Bruce Bolger. He's the founder and director of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance. Bruce and I go back a long ways. We've been involved in the premium incentive industry together, have done some education together, and I worked with him when I was a trustee for the Forum for People Performance Management and Measurement. Bruce is passionate about enterprise engagement and this whole idea of engagement. Those of you who were on the call while we were talking before we got started certainly can hear his passion for this and the opportunity that it represents. This is a whole new discipline. The Enterprise Engagement Alliance recently came out with a textbook, and I'm honored to have been allowed to write the chapter on promotional products in that. Bruce, I'm going to let you take it away and explain to them what a great opportunity they have to develop higher level relationships at their existing clients and what this could mean to them in the field of promotional products. Take it away, Bruce.
Thanks a lot, Paul, and hi everybody, and thanks so much for participating. And yeah, this I think will be a pretty upbeat meeting because, as Paul knows, I've been peripherally involved with the promotional products field for probably about 25 years, since I was an editor or the editor in Incentive Magazine, and we introduced the whole concept along with others of incentive and reward programs being sold through the promotional products marketplace, and of course many promotional products distributors are now active in all elements of rewards and recognition. And the neat thing though about enterprise engagement is that while getting into the rewards and recognition business kind of requires learning a whole bunch of new tools and a different business model than many folks in this business are accustomed to, what's really neat about what I'm going to talk about for the next 45 minutes or so is a concept that doesn't even require you to change what you already do, but to take advantage of all the great resources out there to do what you do even better. Because it's a trend that we believe is going to have a tremendous benefit from the promotional products field, just as it is. Just what it is you sell will be more important than, I think, it's been in years, and I'll discuss more about that in just a few minutes. And then in addition, for those of you who want to be involved with programs, promotions, and not all distributors want to do that, and that's fine. Those that want to get involved with programs, there are new ways to expand your level of relationships in that area as well. So it's really this is a good news session. So what is enterprise engagement? It's the emergence of a new formal field based on making the connection between people, performance, and long-term profitability. And this tech will be, by the way, available for download, so you don't have to take any notes or anything. And in Great Britain, as you'll see in a few minutes, it's actually been declared a movement by the Prime Minister. So it is definitely emerging as a field, and if we have any comments here, if anybody wants to chat, we'd be delighted to hear whether they're hearing the term engagement more with employee engagement or customer engagement or volunteer engagement. It's a word that's very powerful because there's no negative pejoratives. It's all about people engaging, and it's a free will of people whether they want to do it or not. So I'm going to talk today about what is engagement, why it's critical to business, and how promotional products distributors and rewards and recognition companies can benefit. So in a summary, the real benefits are, as Paul kind of alluded to, and if any of you know Paul, you'll know that he's dedicated many years of his career to the same issue of helping decommoditize the traditional promotional products business to separate, the low ballers from, and there's nothing wrong again with that role, but for the industry to thrive, you also want to have a professional application of a science, and not that, obviously is distinguished by people who really understand promotional products and the opportunities they provide. And then, as I said, in addition, this concept of engagement can help some companies that want to offer new services in a new approach to traditional incentive recognition and loyalty programs, and what are becoming engagement programs. And at the very end, I'll give you a couple of case studies. So again, to be clear, now getting into the definition, the other way to look at this is how you can benefit in your own business. Because engagement of your own customers, engagement of your partners, your vendors, so that your vendors deliver on time, right? That's very important to your business. Your own employees. It's a snowy day, maybe. Did they get there? Did they really care? Etc. So you and your clients, this is really a fun subject because it's just so it's not actually revolutionary. It's so relevant to our daily lives. So what is it? It's a strategy and implementation process to help organizations achieve specific financial and other objectives by fostering the proactive involvement of all of the people critical to achieving those goals. It makes sense, but the whole bunch of reasons we don't have time to discuss today. Companies over the last 100 years have been focused more on process than on people, and we believe that social media and other factors are causing a tipping point. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then developing and implementing a formal enterprise engagement plan that integrates all of the tactics necessary to engage the critical people needed to achieve specific things. This is not all warm and fuzzy, wonderful stuff, although I'm going to show you, it is warm and fuzzy, but at the end of the day, it's all about being a better business, doing better financially. That's the real driver. And why is this now happening? Well, I think everyone will agree that social media is shifting the power to consumers and employees. Some of you out there who are around my age will probably agree that it used to be that the manufacturers of things really had the power. The big brands back in the 70s through advertising and had the big power. And then later on it became the retailers. The retailers had the power because they were the ones talking to the consumer. And now it's the people, because with social media, my 18-year-old daughter could tell 900 people instantaneously on Facebook whether or not she liked something, and multiply that by all the millions of people out there connected to social media, and it is indeed revolutionary. So communication is moving from mass to one-to-one, and that should be music to the ears of anyone in the promotional products business. That's the great big excitement for you guys, because you guys are all about one-to-one. And another reason, the customer experience has become the competitive edge, and it's just at its beginning. Many of you are going to discover that you're calling on new people that have the title Customer Experience Manager, but companies don't even know what exactly to hire. What are the skills required? And companies are quickly realizing that they're going to have to really address the human experience, and that means employees, and that means motivating people and customers. Again, all great news for distributors of promotional products. Companies are discovering employees are critical to the brand equation. Your imagination can run wild of how that really enhances what you guys do. The C-suite is beginning to get this connection. There's just so much research. The CRM systems, customer relationship management data, big data, all of these things are revealing in ways that companies can no longer deny that there's a connection between performance and engagement. I'm going to show you something very intriguing in a few minutes that really proves the point. And it's related to this bullet point that companies with engaged audiences actually outperform their competitors in the stock market in a very compelling way. And, the challenge, engagement requires the integration of traditional branding, communications, learning, collaboration, and other functions in a way that is revolutionary to business and indeed an impediment. I'm going to take a breather here because I'm hitting you with a lot of stuff very fast, and I hope this makes sense. And if anybody wants to ask questions or stop me, there's a chat, and Paul will be happy to moderate anything to address your questions. So let's talk, if the concept of engagement isn't logical enough, if you have not heard about it, then, maybe a little bit of talk about the economics before I get into how it applies to your business might help. And the economics are based on identifying and engaging all the people that are critical to achieving a company's goals. It's not just employees, right? It's customers. It's our people we sell through, distributors. You guys are critical for many manufacturers. You decide every day, or help decide, what product is going to be put into the hands of a client program. So you guys are critical. And when I say guys, by the way, I mean ladies as well. I put us all in the same book. So that we're addressing everybody here. Anyway, and then secondly, companies that do this really focus on it. It's not an accident. May not totally have a formal program in the strictest sense that we would define it, but like a company like Southwest Airlines or the Container Store or Zappos, and national companies most of you are aware of, it's baked into the culture of the company. And people like that generally use a lot of promotional products because they want their brand to live three-dimensionally and to become part of people's homes and lives. And as I said earlier, in the UK, it's a movement, literally. If you go to a website, engageforsuccess.org, you'll see that David Cameron, the Prime Minister, has initiated a national campaign known as Engage for Success, which is being involving, I just added this slide, I see a typo, I'm sorry, but in any case, it's involving top management from all over the UK, and yes, they're calling it a movement, and it comes straight from the Prime Minister. The Brits are ahead of us on this, but that is, to me, a sign. This is really happening, and they call it a movement. I'd be embarrassed to do that, but I guess when you're Prime Minister of Great Britain, you can do that. In any case, again, the reasons are compelling. This is an engaged company stock index that our organization has put together, and this was where we really decided to, put our money where our mouths are. And this is not an investment. No, we're not trying to sell you anything. This is actually just a theoretical basket of funds that we created on October 1st, 2012. Through a third-party organization, we have data on customer, employee, and community engagement. And that data has enabled us to identify companies that I'll show you in a minute because some of you may do business with them. And we said, okay, we set that index at 10,000 in October. Yes, we had research showing that after we selected these companies, we had research showing that, over the past 6 years, they had outperformed their competition, or this S&P 500, I should say. But, the proof is in the pudding. Create your portfolio, see how it does. And we are outperforming the S&P 500 by a significant amount, 21 percentage points to date. That is significant by any standard. Only 2% of money managers achieve that level of performance. And we're doing this to make a point. Excuse me, I jumped ahead. I'll let you all pause for a moment and take a look here and see whether maybe it's an alpha order here, whether you have any clients on the most engaged, stock index. But I'll bet you that every one of these clients, every one of these companies is a big user of promotional products. And that's what I'm going to start talking about in just a couple of minutes here, how this all relates to not only your business the way you may run it, but your own levels of customer engagement and your partner engagement and how you can maybe focus more strategically on that. Maybe some of you do it by instinct, but we don't learn about this in schools. It's not, there's only one textbook that we know of that Paul graciously helped us with and many others. So, we're really trying to create a way to make this happen, to provide you guys, ladies and men, the opportunity to profit from engagement on multiple levels. So I'm going to look at this now from the standpoint of your customer and what they're doing and what they're going through. And this customer could be any of those companies I just showed you, but it could also be a regional grocery store chain. It could be a car wash chain. It could be a hotel, a regional franchise hotel, or a major one like a Hampton Inns. And because these companies that are doing this are creating lots of opportunities for you folks, selling what you already do, not to mention new potential things for those of you who are interested. So first off, the new concept you're going to hear about is the enterprise brand. And that's a brand concept that appeals to everybody, not just to the customer. The old concept, process orientation, you appeal to the customer. Well, today, the idea is don't just make a promise, keep the promise. If it's worth spending advertising dollars to make a promise, it's certainly worth spending money to keep them. So the idea of an enterprise brand is that it's a concept that appeals to everybody in the brand. So, for instance, an example would be the concept of Starbucks. Their overall theme is uplifting. Well, that uplifting it applies to everybody. It's to be uplifting to engage with that company as an employee, as a vendor, as a partner, as an employee, whatever it is. And another concept of company that has an enterprise brand is Whole Foods. They actually have their values right over the checkout counters in the stores that I've been. So that reinforces to the employees and to the customers the promise that's being made. And they even have photos of vendors. So that's an enterprise brand. Now, again, I don't have to tell any of you on this call how a three-dimensional product carefully selected for that brand helps reinforce that brand when companies think one-to-one. So I think that's, of course, very obvious and exciting. So what makes enterprise engagement unique is that it focuses on creating alignment across the organization, connecting people rather than having them in silos. And the idea is so we're all focused on the same expectation. A customer who walks into a Whole Foods has an expectation that he or she is going to pay about 10% more for everything, but get rewarded by feeling that these products meet their values and their quality standards of purity and humane treatment of animals, etc. Whether that's something that's for everybody is neither here nor there if they have a market that is willing to pay more for that. And so then the idea is to make sure that everybody in that organization is focused on delivering that promise. And so it's not just about customer engagement. It's not just about employee engagement. It's about everybody engagement. That's why we call it enterprise engagement. And it requires integrating tactics like promotional products, like learning, communications. I'll go over them quickly in a few minutes. And we're going to have plenty of time to cover all of this and any questions that you might have. So don't worry I hope I'm not speaking too fast. So in any case, the idea is we break down silos and we integrate tactics that have been siloed in the past. And so what are the challenges to this movement? Research, all the surveys show that this is a top priority. Pricewaterhouse CEO study from 2000, from last year found that customer and employee engagement are top priorities at the CEO level. And organizations, but the issue is, how do you do it? How do you make it happen? The Incentive Research Foundation did a study this past year on engagement and found, yes, it's a top priority, but companies don't even agree what it means exactly and engage for what? What are we actually engaging people to do? And that's the critical question, of course. So the challenges are no formal framework or implementation process taught in schools. Organizations, often big companies like a Hampton Inns, need a full-service solution when most engagement solution providers focus on maybe assessment, maybe rewards, maybe communications. But very few companies really put that together. That is changing. That's another big opportunity for some of the big agency companies. And those are, of course, opportunities for you because these companies, of course, don't generally do their own promotional products work. So, and then, of course, technology is an impediment. Many companies, their intranets, their loyalty programs, everything are a mishmash. They are not yet really calibrated for the real world of one-to-one engagement and communications quite yet. It's still sort of in the early days of that. So in technology, the companies have not yet gotten an enterprise solution around that like they have their manufacturing processes and accounting and other auditing processes, etc. And then how do you break down almost a century of silo-oriented thinking in companies with the training people and the communications people and the marketing people and the HR department people are all in separate silos often, and sometimes in some companies don't even particularly like each other, ironically. So I'm going to go through the principles of this. And again, the great thing to realize is that you don't have to be an expert in all of this to benefit. I'm really talking about a trend that I think is exciting for business. It's a human approach to capitalism that has come out of excuse me, the whole social media thing that I mentioned earlier, that's put the power in the hands of consumers. And so it's an exciting trend that affects all of us, and you don't have to be an expert on it to profit from it. Being aware of it, sensitive to it, applying it to your business just creates new opportunities. So the foundation of all of this, in terms of making it happen, is the person who touches the customer or the employee. That's where the rubber, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where companies really have to focus. And again, whenever anything is one-to-one, again, think promotional products. A reminder on my desk where I'm working of key values that's clever, humorous, or whatever, or reflects the brand in an edgy way or in a clever way. These become very important. And it's worth a couple of bucks every 6 months to change what's on that person's desk. And so the foundations of it are getting down to a company culture. And then also, of course, the ability to integrate all of these different elements that go into connecting people to achieving the same goal, which is to satisfy the customer and make money. So as I said, the key success factors are that culture. That connect the frontline manager and the employee, and then a plan. I think there's a duplicate there. I'm sorry. And then to connect all of this to results. There's no really reason to do anything in business without results at the end of the day. It's all well and good to talk about that life will be a better place. In fact, in the Great Britain program, if you go check that site out, and I think it's fascinating, you'll see that they have a report on engagement and well-being. And basically, they're one of the elements of this movement. Forget the economics. It's all about actually making British people happier. Wow, I would have never dared, or we at the EEA never would have dared to state that we're going to try to make Americans happier. But what the heck? Anyway, so what this really is, it's a fresh approach to doing traditional things like incentive, promotions, recognition programs that help companies achieve, critical customer loyalty goals, sales goals, distributor engagement goals, and employee goals, wellness, productivity, quality. So this is really all about achieving business results by addressing all of the key levers that go into making us want to engage with somebody. And what all of the research over the many years has indicated is that it really isn't that complicated. That yes, every one of us is a snowflake, but that nonetheless, various overall elements are involved with connecting us to a goal. And it's right here on one slide. It's not complicated. Vision. Where are we going? How are people going to help us get there? What is Whole Foods trying to achieve for its customers, for its employees, for its shareholders? By the way, it's been a great stock to buy for those of you who might know. They've done very well, despite the fact that we call them whole paychecks in this household. Anyway, vision is critical. There has to be engaged for what? That answers that. What am I engaged for? And then a brand that benefits all of those unique constituencies. I spoke about that before. And then this concept of frontline management. We all know that you really don't work for a company. Well, many of you on this call probably are unique and lucky that you work for small groups and with great cultures. But many of us work for big companies, and it's that frontline management that often can ruin our jobs. So we don't work for our company. We work for often that frontline manager. And then communications, making sure everybody informed today is quite a challenge. Capability, are we capable of doing what's being asked? Whether we're a consumer, am I capable of buying that car? I always love seeing these catalog ads in like Time magazine when 90% of the people could never buy a catalog. So capability is a very important thing. And then emotion. Research shows that how we feel about a company, about a place, about a brand, a service, in our daily work life, are we happy when we go there? It's critical engagement factor. I don't think many companies take that into account. Task value, very important. Many of you might seen on the CBS 60 Minutes report in the last several weeks, a janitor in a small, or I forget, a school somewhere in the South. And this janitor, it was a poor school. A lot of the kids, came from disadvantaged families. And the janitor took it upon himself over the years to become sort of a social counselor ad hoc here in the New York area. I'm sure he could have been in legal trouble for that. But whatever happened, it was a wonderful outcome because he helped many, many kids, and of course got on 60 Minutes. That man had task value, and that's very critical. And that translates to a consumer feeling valued. And you know what it's like to feel valued by a local car dealership, by your favorite restaurant. Well, guess what? The research supports that the more we feel that, the more we engage. And I don't have to show anybody on this phone this slide whose brain isn't thinking, how can promotional products support that? And I think it's very clear. But I'm going to be more granular about that in a minute because we're going to have time. So it starts, a successful engagement strategy starts with a vision. What does your company stand for? How does it, and how does it connect with the culture? How does that brand that how do people in that small office of yours perhaps, or in a big company, the same concept? And at a company like Zappos, there is a connection. A company at Google, there is a connection between how people feel and the brand. And there's a pride there. And then how can people benefit from their relationship with an organization, whether they're a customer, distribution partner, employee, vendor, community member, it doesn't matter. And then, again, the concept of the enterprise brand. And again, we threw in a few little, kind of ideas as to how promotional products fit into all this. A brand that unifies the entire organization of people under a single vision, offering benefits to all involved. Well, imagine a whole line of promotional products for the entire audience, distributors, employees, customers, vendors, communities. You guys can help reinforce that brand better than just about any other marketing tool when it's properly done. Advertising is ephemeral compared to what a promotional product can do when you're going one-to-one. Then moving on, frontline implementation. I mentioned that before. Again, companies now have frontline assessments where managers can find out how they're doing in terms of the engagement of their employees, and promotional products and rewards can become very important for those companies that prefer a positive rather than a negative approach to promoting behaviors. And I think the research really supports a positive approach rather than a negative approach, at least if you have a long-term benefit involved. And then communications. Again, you folks are critical to communications because people don't read anything anymore. People are overwhelmed. What's the typical open rate of an email blast? If you're 15% if you're lucky, unless it's your employees where you're telling them their financial, something having to do with their pay. And then it's probably then 50% if you're lucky. And then, do people feel part of the community? That's very important. Are they getting the information they need or could want rather than just being sold to? And again, you folks provide a powerful three-dimensional way to enhance the message. And then again, I mentioned that capability issue. Can they do something? Well, again, where do your products fit in? If I'm doing spot tests or quizzes or little games with my customers, games to reinforce knowledge, heck, promotional products always fit into that, as well as rewards, of course. And then emotion. You guys, what you do as a field are really important for emotion because a clever promotional product, or a t-shirt or a slogan can get attention, can become a part of a unifying scene that, brings people together and it touches that emotion. So again, this is why I'm very enthusiastic today for the field of engagement, and it helps a lot of people. It helps the training people. It helps the communications people because companies are going to focus on these tools. It helps the collaboration people. It helps everybody engagement as companies move from mass to one-to-one and building relationships. I mentioned task value. Again, you guys fit into that beautifully because promotional products and rewards, properly given at the right time, can make anybody at any level feel important. And then measurement. The whole world is moving now toward measurement, and that's where we really thrive because when you look at recall, when you look at what people actually do, what their behaviors are, you're going to find out that they indeed, if you do all of these things right, if you communicate properly right over time, and you focus on how you're helping people rather than selling to them, and you want to build a real relationship, yes, research indicates they will engage. And the macro research indicates that the companies run that way will do better. They'll have less turnover. They'll have better customer and employee retention. It'll be cheaper to get customers because customers tell their friends, hey, this is a great company. You got to do business with them. Employees say, hey, you want to come work for those guys. They are great to work for, et cetera, et cetera. So summarizing them, all of these tools of engagement, look where you guys fit in, obviously in the communications area, obviously in rewards and recognition, but you really fit in all of those categories because you can always use a promotional product to add a communication dimension to a one-to-one experience. And since everything's going to one-to-one from mass, you see, promotional products are not a great mass story because, if I'm giving them to unqualified people, there's a tremendous waste factor, in the waste basket and in the drawer, problem. But that problem goes away when you're dealing with people that are engaged and you've identified them and that they actually like the brand. They might even be proud to have that promotional product. So it really is, as I say, an exciting trend. So the ultimate opportunity with enterprise engagement is to create a wow level of performance. And there are companies that do it. I think most would argue, Southwest Airlines is a great example. They've made mistakes. They've all screwed up. But I think Container Stores, another. I think Whole Foods overall has done a great job. And I think the opportunity for you guys is to show how what you sell can reinforce that brand at every touch point. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the final part of this presentation. What's neat, though, before I get into that, and the rest of this is, if I recall, focusing on your particular businesses and how you can benefit. But what's neat with this is that you can really get clients to start small with engagement and thinking this way. It can be used, to help in a particular event go well, a membership drive go well in the not-for-profit sector, a specific sales incentive. Using this framework to improve current programs really creates opportunities. I'm going to share one of them at the end of this. So let's just talk a little bit why this trend helps distributors and reward suppliers, if I have not, emphasized that enough. Once organizations appreciate the value of a relationship, of every relationship, they immediately are willing to spend more to reinforce it. And I'll give you a great example. There are all these traditional incentive programs out there, you all know them, where, rewards are drop shipped. And Amazon got into that business for a while. And the incredible thing is that in the old world, that worked because companies didn't care. The reward was just another commodity. It didn't matter. Well, that's almost ridiculous now, and you're going to hear a term now more and more called engaging rewards. A company called Hinda is very much promoting this. And the concept is, hey, this is a one-to-one opportunity. You're sending this reward to the top customer, an employee, a distribution partner. There's not a letter from the president in there. There's not some sort of personalization in the packaging for an extra $3 with the most important person. So once you begin to think that way, it becomes hard for the client, just send them a box. Well, if you just send them a box, why don't you just send them a check? I mean, the client can begin to understand that when they're in the world of engagement. And they become open to solutions to make their efforts more successful because they recognize that, they didn't learn about this in school. It isn't frequently understood. Everyone has a different path. And you know what? We need to agree. There really is a framework. It's not complicated. There's research to back it up. Over 100 people have helped develop it. And now there's a quote, an international movement, if you will. It's time to get our hands around it. And companies are eager with people that have solutions. And engagement is new. And yes, the people that got involved in the promotional products right after World War II, when all the troops were coming back and got into this field, and I wasn't living then, but I know the history, that was in a time of tremendous growth for your field. And I think, ironically, engagement creates that same opportunity if the field embraces it. And, excuse me, what's really neat about this is that it really leverages all the great education you guys already have in your industry. I know from working with Paul more years than he and I want to agree to, that he's been involved with all of the education, others of you and many others, of elevating this field to make clients understand the importance of promotional products as a way of building a one-to-one experience and reinforcing a brand in a way that's as important as advertising, not more important, but certainly as important as advertising. And so you don't have to go out and reinvent your business to take advantage of the current opportunity. It's the industry associations don't have to reinvent the business, but it's a matter of going, hey guys, look at this. There's a big trend out there, and the big opportunity is to really view products as a media and to have our salespeople and our marketing support people, our program design people, really knowledgeable about the elements of three-dimensional communication and helping clients make as scientific or as creative or as artistic or as humorous a program as possible depending upon the objectives. So it really is all about that, using all that good, great science that you got at the PPA show a couple of weeks ago. And, I haven't seen the industry really embrace this concept of engagement yet, but knowing this industry, once they see it and get it, it will spring into action. And then, of course, to identify the other strategies and tactics that the client is planning. Because as you'll see in a minute when we get into this a little further, every time you see a promotional products business, the product, there is an engagement program, by definition. I defy anyone to argue with that. Anytime a customer gives away a pen, anything, there is an effort to engage somebody. And when you understand that, you'll understand that they're spending a lot of money doing other things related to that, and that the more you identify that overall strategy around that pen or that plaque, the bigger opportunity there is for your company if you're the type of company that wants to explore those other avenues, and you don't have to succeed. I don't succeed, but I'll leave that to other experts. But we think that if you really understand engagement, you might identify gaps in the client's strategy or ways to help them and create new opportunities. And we think that, and again, this isn't new to any of you, other than that when the world of engagement, it's going to be easier, I think, to make the sale. And those of you who've invested in really all of these education programs that the PPA and the industry create, you now can really leverage that to show clients, look, you can't fake this. Like a good media buyer in advertising, it's this combination of science, art, and then logistical knowledge, making sure that everything's where it has to be at the right time, to make this not a commodity. No, you cannot buy this on the website. This is not go to the lowest supplier. This is going to the artist, the people who can really creatively help you maximize that one-to-one experience. And in fact, in your sales presentation, create a sense of risk. Wait a minute, you're going to entrust that one-to-one experience with what? This is, I think, again, another opportunity for your field. And because, again, helping clients really understand how to leverage their own demographics, their own information, their knowledge of past programs, the way things have been done in the past, to really come up with a program that's going to maximize that one-to-one experience, that's going to maximize retention, so that when they do their post-campaign strategies, people remember the message, they remember the brand, and they've achieved that goal of getting anybody to engage, which is very, very difficult. And so it's about doing great fact-finding. A great promotional products rep I think, is going to be trying to get any kind of data, and I don't need to tell you this, so I won't embarrass myself, and I'll move on. The other things are, as I said, by understanding that engagement framework, and again, all of the information is out there now to do so, you can get the knowledge if you want to go further with your client to conduct a gap analysis, to really understand, okay, you called me for this pen or this promotional product. Where's this program? What's it part of? And really understanding what other areas of pain they might have related to that program. And I'm going to give you quick case studies in just a couple of minutes to give you an example of that. And now there are all these tools out there, there's technology tools out there, where you can actually go in and help companies with sophisticated rewards and recognition engagement programs, because there's systems and platforms out there in the market that can help you do that are sold through people like you, resellers of different types, incentive companies, recognition firms, etc. And then once you understand the full breadth of what a client is trying to do, you might identify opportunities for other promotional products. Like if there's a consumer program, hey, well, what about the employees? We're trying to link the two, as you might recall from earlier in this presentation. Looking for where promotional products can be used elsewhere, or maybe they need signage, maybe they need printed materials or other marketing support things, and they really rely oftentimes on people like you to outsource these things, and it creates a new product opportunities. So in conclusion, I'm going to give you two examples, and I'm going to be right on time, Paul. I said I'd be done at 1:15, and I will be, Eastern that is. One company I can name, one I can't, but this is a company called Lipix Engagement. It's a 150-year-old promotional products distributor that first made the shift to recognition in the 1990s and has now successfully made the switch to engagement. And anybody who he's actually happy to talk to people about this because he's so excited about it. And what he's done, this is actually an example of a whole engagement portal concept that he's come up with that enables him to run all sorts of multiple programs for his clients on a single platform, and all of his promotional products are available to the managers through this platform. And then there's a recognition program where he has recognition awards, and all of this is completely automated. And I actually meant to have a link to his website here, but I don't want to screw this thing up, where if you go to Lipix Engagement, just if you're interested, Google Lipix Engagement, and you'll see that he's actually positioned his company as an engagement agency, and he's trained his salespeople and he has a woman, and we've actually provided training, and I've been out there, so I know how it works. Any call that comes in for any type of business, this woman has been trained on engagement and how to really get at how that product is going to be used, and it has created all sorts of revenue opportunities for him outside of this technology. It has increased his promotional product sales 10% this past year. That's what he told me. That's in addition to the new business that he's generated in terms of now providing more sophisticated reward and recognition solutions using these technologies. But the fun is he's selling more promotional products. And that's really one of the big messages I want to come out of this. This isn't like the incentive business that I and other people helped, introduce to this field decades ago, in that you have to all of a sudden create all of these new things and learn all of these new things. I think it helps. It's great. Not for everybody. But I do think it applies to the entire field of promotional products. And that's the number one thing I want to bring home here. Second example is a company I cannot name. I'm sorry. They are under contractual obligation with the world's, let's say, top 3 international tire maker. And this company, the company that got the business is an unknown company in most circles. It's the company that traditionally did and does do for that company the plaques and the reward programs, just the service awards, and nothing more than the plaques and administering their distribution. All of you probably have clients like that. And this big tire company put out the bid. It wanted a fresh new approach to its entire recognition program, that they wanted to revolutionize it. And they sent out this RFP to all of the top recognition companies. MC Fina, I believe, was the incumbent, but it went out to OC Tanner, Achievers, and a bunch of other people. And this tiny unknown company won the business, specifically because they addressed it from the standpoint of engagement and linking recognition to reinforcing the company's brand. They went to the website. We helped them with all of this as part of their involvement with the EEA, and we supported all of this. And they beat out all of those people for this program, and it has now been renamed it used to be the company's recognition program. It is now the company's engagement program. So I think that's just concrete evidence of how this trend is really, in a sense, an opportunity to shake up the card deck, because the early adopters who've really focused on this engagement thing actually have a leg up on the big companies that can't move as fast and that are protective of their own, what they think are proprietary benefits, which really are old business models that are no longer applicable in a people-focused business world. So that, folks, was a lot to convey in 45 minutes, and I hope that I did not speak too quickly, and if I did, hopefully the deck will help you kind of, if you want to learn more or just absorb it. Again, please feel free to download it. My organization, you'll be happy to know, most of what we do is free. Yes, we have textbooks and training programs, and we also have a magazine, engagement strategies, and a portal, and all of those good things. But most of it is free because our mission is to demonstrate the critical contribution of engagement to the success of enterprises and to create a formal discipline required of all management across our economy, because it's a better way to do business. And we are all about creating education and training, and we're always happy to help. So on the deck, you'll see how you can contact me. And as Paul will tell you, Paul works the same way. We're here to help, always here to help. We see engagement as a big opportunity, and we wish you all the luck, best of luck in taking advantage of it. Paul, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wow, you really hit your mark. Thanks, Bruce. And if anyone has any questions, there's a chat box on the left side of your screen. You can enter your questions there, and Bruce would be happy to answer them. He hit on a lot of points that I make in a lot of my presentations. For one thing, I often talk about promotional products that, while other media interrupt people, ours is really a media that engages people. With other media, they interrupt and get in the way. However, with ours, when you hand somebody a promotional product, when they accept a promotional product, it's really the beginning of a relationship. We talked a lot about engagement, but I've worked with a hospital system that really referred to it as enhancement. They look at it as life enhancement, and all of that goes into this. Most of you are probably already writing business and selling promotional products that are fitting into engagement programs. The real opportunity here is, as you get to understand this discipline in the field, you'll be able to ask your clients better questions about how is this fitting in, and then consequently you'll be able to find those gaps and fill them. Last month when I was in Vegas for the PPAI Expo, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit Zappos, which was one of the companies that Bruce mentioned. And Zappos, it has been so successful. Their engagement is part of their culture that in order to get a job at Zappos, they say it's easier to get accepted into Harvard than it is to get in the door at Zappos. There's that many people that want to work there. So you can imagine what kind of benefit that is. And also wanted to mention, those of you who subscribe to PPB Magazine, put out by Promotional Products Association International, the February issue should be coming out in about a week or two, and it has an article that I wrote about our opportunities closely aligned with what Bruce covered here today. We have a question, Bruce. I'll let you read it and answer it to the best of your ability.
Yes, one of you would like to know if it is possible to get the questions that the Lipix phone gal uses. Well, I will, just to protect the integrity of our client, I'll just tell you what we recommended they do. And I assume that's similar to what they do. The most important thing, of course, is not to confuse the client and get to what they need. Number one, they've called because they want something. So that's the number one thing to get down and to focus on that need, right? After you've done that, then what we recommend is, to help you best, as you know, client, and this is again where you begin to show and add credibility, right? Because you're demonstrating people, if you say you're the greatest, that means nothing. If you demonstrate you're the greatest, that's important. And you can begin to demonstrate it by understanding what their real areas of pain might be, bigger than that. Now, sometimes the administrative person who's calling is too low, that I should say, to be able to answer those questions. But sometimes what happens, and I know this from Lipix, that when you start asking that question, that person says, it's funny, I've heard people talking about that. Let me get back to you about that. And that leads to getting into a higher level person than the person that called in, because you asked good questions that related to questions he had heard and went, I can get some brownie points if I help get that solved. So the first thing, what does the client need? Then go, oh, again, so that we can help you, best make sure that we're looking, because our strategy here is to watch your back, as we say here in New York, and, make sure that there's no other consideration. So could you tell me the program, of course, that this is involved in? What are you trying to accomplish in this program? Just again, so we're clear, are there clear goals or measurement, that you want to achieve? What other parts of your program are part of this? And again, if somebody gets antsy and says, I just want to buy a plaque. What are you doing this for? Of course, to back off. But you know what? I have rarely seen that, because, in fact, most of the time people are delighted that you asked, because so many of your competitors don't ask. So the idea then is to kind of gradually take them up to, and the other tactics that they're trying to do, other audiences that they might try that might be part of this overall program. And again, if you look like you're doing it just to figure out a way to sell them something more, it will be a turnoff. If you're doing it in a way that looks like you are simply trying to be informed, to watch their back, you'll get, I think, generally a very positive response. And then finally, ROIs. Asking about, how do you expect to really measure the goal? How do you expect our products to fit into that, etc. So I hope our caller from Minnesota is satisfied with that answer.
Thanks, Bruce. And once again, thanks everyone for attending today's Wild Wednesday webinar. Next month, on February 25, we're going to be featuring Mary Depp from the Chest, who's going to be talking about the opportunities that you have to increase profits and really increase your sales through packaging. Once again, these presentations are made possible by the sponsorship of Apothecary Products, and we thank them. And it's worth one CAS point. You'll be directed to a survey at the end of our session today, and if you fill that out and include your PIN number, we'll be happy to submit that to PPAI for you. Also, on the left-hand side of your screen in the chat box, there is a place where you can click to download Bruce's presentation, and Bruce is always willing to share his knowledge and expertise, and feel free to contact him if you'd like to learn more about how you can become more of an expert in this area. So once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bruce. We appreciate your contributions today, and I look forward to seeing everyone next month for Wild Wednesday webinars from MIPA. Thank you.